Hey guys, Nthefastlane here. Have you replaced suspension parts or you're in the process of replacing them? Don't make these mistakes. We're going to get into that right after this. When replacing an upper control arm, you want to leave the bushing bolts loose. So we have a bushing here and there's also a bushing on the other side. Now, if you don't leave those loose, when you drop the vehicle down, it's going to end up tearing the bushing. Now, if you have a look at this bushing right here, you can see how the whole inside is completely tore up all the way around. And this center can just spin. Same thing with this lower control arm. If you look at this lower control arm right here, the bushings are completely tore all the way around. Now, this literally can happen within the first couple hundred miles. So you need to make sure that you preload your vehicle and then torque the bolts. If you torque the bolts before you preload, your bushings are going to end up looking like this. Now there's two types of bushings. There's the standard bushing. It's been on all the lower control arms and upper control arms for several years. And it's pretty much a solid piece. It doesn't really have any give. And then there's another bushing, which is called the low-deflection polyurethane bushing. Now this one has some movement, and these like to be greased. You add a little bit of grease on them so they don't squeak. But both of these bushings need to be preloaded before they're torqued down. The rear upper control arm is another bushing that you want to loosen up. So you loosen this bolt before you preload the vehicle as well. Now there's another bushing that may be overlooked, and that's the toe bushing. This bushing also needs to be loose. Now the strut assembly and where the knuckle meets the lower control arm, you want to leave those bolts loose as well. And where the lower control arm meets the chassis. Now when the suspension is completely installed and the bolts are loose, go ahead and put some blocks, either wood or cinder blocks under the tires so you can lower it down on it, and then you'll have enough room under there to get the socket in there. Now when lowering the front of the vehicle, we won't need cinder blocks or wood because we're going to be tightening the bolts underneath the hood. Now once the vehicle's on the ground, go ahead and give it a couple pushes. And this is just preloading the struts. Now that the vehicle's preloaded, we're going to go ahead and torque down the front. Same thing for the back side of the upper control arm. Now once you're at the rear of the vehicle and the vehicle's preloaded, go ahead and torque down the lower control arm. After that, torque down the toe adjustment. Now initially you'll take some heater hose, you'll cut it equal lengths and cut it down the middle, and we'll put it over top of this jack stand like that. And now we want to drill some holes on either side. Take a zip tie, and then we'll shove the zip tie through these holes, and this will keep the heater hose on the jack. So now the idea is to put the jack stand the closest point to the rotor on the lower control arm. So we'll slide it over here. Right about there, right underneath the strut. Do that to the other side. And now we'll gently lower the vehicle, and that'll preload the suspension. Now that the vehicle's preloaded, we can now make our adjustments. That's it. Hey, if you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell. If you don't click the bell, you will not get notified of my future uploads. So hit subscribe, click the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.